Hacker's website. Ashar wanted to ask where you see the future of the no-code movement going.
I think it's going to become more and more mainstream, and at some point, I think it will stop calling that no code. I think right now we're calling this no code because it's new, but I think eventually that's where software development is going. Like software development is going, and that's really the world we're trying to design with Bubble, is a world where business people build the products themselves because they know the product better, actually, because they know usually they're closer to users or the need, or they're trying to build it for you themselves. And engineers only come on board when you need to extend the platform with a feature. So for instance, let's give an example. Like imagine you building something like Airbnb, again, the same example. A business person, a product manager who's not very technical can, design exactly what, not like pixel perfect in terms of how beautiful it is, but in terms of functionality, what happens when you click on this button. If you logged in, this is what you should see. If you logged out, this is something you would see. So engineers, when they write this into code, it's actually not super value added because they don't add anything new. They're just transcribing what business people tend them to build. Where engineers start building new interesting things is when they start, doing, like, for instance, for Airbnb, the pricing algorithms they have is actually very advanced. If you're trying to do some kind of, machine learning optimization to match people better, for instance, this is the kind of things that an engineer should be building and should be focusing time on. So what I think the world should be, and what we're trying to do, is a world where, so no code is not a thing anymore. Business people, it's a common knowledge that if you need to build something, you can, just using one of these no-code tools, but we don't call them no-code. And when you need to build something that is more advanced and that is more like pure software engineering, like algorithmic engineering, then an engineer comes on board. So the value of that is that it's a much high leverage thing because you don't have lost in translation issues between business people and engineers, which is something that happens a lot today. Because again, for very frequently, engineers build something they wouldn't use themselves for many occurrences. Business people that know the field much better build it, and the engineers only work on new things. And if I may, if we have a shot at changing the world, and I mean it like literally, that might actually be like, if we or another no-code platform does well enough that it becomes mainstream, we're going to free so much of engineering time to work on real things that who knows what they're going to do, and that's actually really cool. When you look at companies like Uber and Lyft, for instance, I mean, or like DoorDash and Deliveroo, or DoorDash and Caviar. Those companies are great, but honestly, it's kind of the same thing, like from a engineering standpoint. The fact that these companies have thousands of engineers on payroll is really sad. They should be having, business. Where they actually differ is their business strategy, branding, user experience, but the user experience is often a product aspect, not an engineering aspect. And so the world would be much better where, these companies use no-code tools to have, business people building the product, and they only bring, 50 engineers when they're at scale, when they actually need to work on like specific things that, the no-code tool is not great at. Like for Bubble, for instance, building a machine learning algorithm is not something that would be great on Bubble, but you can use Bubble, hire an engineer that would type it, and then it runs on the server somewhere. That we have an API where we can host code. And so the engineer just focuses on that. So that's where I see software development going. This should be across all platforms. So today it's only web for most of us. I think the web being like the platform that contains most of the other things, it makes sense to start with that, but we're going to have to expand to mobile definitely. And then what the next platform will be, I don't know, whether it's glasses, VR, like Apple Watch. It's not entirely clear exactly where this is going, but the software development will have to be the same visual platform everywhere. Where I hope that will lead us is at some point, people won't see programming as a skill that is hard to get anymore, and more like something, oh yeah, I want to create a world where, people program without even thinking it's called programming, which is already something that Microsoft Excel has done pretty well. Like if you use Excel today to build like even like a family budget, you're basically programming, but Excel has been around long enough, and it's been taught enough in colleges and even high schools that nobody think about it in those terms, and that has become, I think this is the most impressive software franchise that we've seen so far. I mean, Excel literally changed how the business world works dramatically. It converted any like business analyst into some kind of a data scientist for small data sets. I mean, now Excel is limited by how much data we have to handle, and I want tools like Bubble to do the same thing with programming. So people will end up, oh yeah, I need to create, this kind of like advanced form to work my new users into something. I'm just going to build it. It's going to take me like 2 or 3 hours. There's no code. And effectively you are programming it, but you don't think about it. And if something at some point is missing, then an engineer will add and build it.